Calling the Planning Commission meeting to order, April 22nd, 2024 at 6:02 PM. The Selma City Council Chambers, teleconference phone number 301-715-8592. Webinar ID 883-1804-9306. When on the phone, if you wish to address the commission during the public comment portion of the agenda, press star 9 to raise your hand and we will select you from the meeting queue. Press star 6 to unmute and mute yourself. The flag salute led by Commissioner Sandhu. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Commissioner Corey,
Here.
Commissioner Franco,
Here. I didn't hear.
Commissioner Garcia stepped out, but will be joining us via Zoom, so I'll give him later towards the meeting here. Commissioner Juarez, Commissioner Sandhu,
Here.
Vice Chair Singh,
Here.
and Chair Salas.
Here.
Thank you.
Potential conflicts of interest. Any commissioner who has potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse himself from discussing and voting on the matter. Conflict of interest, oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission regarding any item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have any oral communication at this time? Online?
For the callers on the line, please use star 9 to raise your virtual hand and star 6 to unmute yourself. Chair Salas, we do have one caller on the line. Sean, you're able to talk.
Hi, commissioners. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to say that I am on the call. I don't have the star 7 or the keypad options, but I can raise hand and then I suppose just go back on mute. I'm here representing the architecture team on behalf of Mr. J, who is the developer for the project that's on the commission. And I'm representing the architecture firm, Paul Lodge Architects. I suppose if there are any questions that come up, I'll be ready, willing, and able to address those at the time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
For the callers on the line, please use star 9 to raise your virtual hand and star 6 to unmute yourself. Chair Salas, we also have Stephanie on the line. Stephanie, you can talk.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie Say. I'm also with Paul Halajan Architects representing the Highland in Nebraska project for Jay Singh. Also available to answer questions if you have any. Otherwise, we'll just be here to observe. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all?
For the callers on the line, please use star 9 to raise your virtual hand and star 6 to unmute yourself. Chair Salas, there are no other hands raised.
Thank you. Consent calendar. All items listed under consent calendar are considered routine. The complete consent calendar will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote. For purposes of discussion, any commissioner member may have an item removed from the consent calendar and made part of the regular agenda. The commission can then approve the remainder of the consent calendar. The item on the consent calendar is a consideration and necessary action on the minutes of the March 25th, 2024 meeting.
I just have a question on those. I was present at that meeting, but I don't see that I voted yes on the consent calendar, which, unless I'm reading it wrong.
Thank you, Commissioner Corey. We'll make that correction for the record.
I'll make a motion to approve with the correction.
I'll second it.
I abstain.
Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Corey,
Yes.
Commissioner Franco,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia, can you hear?
Yes.
Vice Chair Singh,
I abstain.
and Chair Salas.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is a general plan amendment, zone change, tentative parcel map, and site plan review, and initial study and mitigated negative declaration. Consider the proposal to change existing general plan land use designation and zone district, site plan review, and tentative parcel map to allow for the development of 144 multifamily dwelling units on approximately 10.57 acres, a commercial development totaling 3.79 acres, and 0.95 acres dedicated to private open space. The current zone of the property is R17. The proposed development includes a rezone from R17 to R3, approximately 10.57 acres, C3, approximately 3.79 acres, and OS, the open space, approximately 0.95 acres. The proposed project is located on the northeast side of the intersection of Highland Avenue, State Route 43, and Nebraska Avenue, APN 388-03-026. A draft initial study mitigation negative declaration has been prepared concerning the proposed project in compliance with provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act. Staff report.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Kamar Beywogi, City Planner for the City of Selma. Here we have you, item 2 on the agenda, Plan 2021-0012 for a general plan amendment, rezone, site plan review, a tentative parcel map, and accompanying mitigative negative declaration. Okay, so the Planning Commission is to consider a recommendation to the City Council to approve the general plan amendment from MLD to high density. Just to add on that point, the general plan will also include CC, community commercial, to comply with parcel 3, the C3 zone. A rezone from R17 to R3, from R17 to R3 and C3, and an open space and a site plan review and tentative parcel map to allow for the development of 144 multifamily dwelling units complex on approximately 10.57 acres. That is parcel 2 of the development, a commercial development totaling 3.79 acres, and that is parcel 3 of the development, and a 0.95 acres dedicated to private open space. That is parcel 1 of the development. The proposed project is located on a northeast side of the intersection of Highland Avenue, State Route 43, and Nebraska. Here you can see the aerial site location. Attached here is a site plan showing 144 units, full build out of the apartment complex. To the south of the apartment complex is the future commercial development. And to the northeast is the open space dedication that the applicant has proposed. Here is a tentative parcel map. Correction, the bottom portion, parcel 2, the proposed commercial should be listed as parcel 3. Next slide. Okay, so for secret compliance, a mitigated negative declaration, an initial study, mitigated negative declaration, and mitigation monitoring reporting program has been prepared and is subject to approval by the Planning Commission. Next slide, please. Okay, so once again, the applicant is proposing a general plan amendment, rezone, tentative map, a site plan review for the 144 multifamily development on approximately 10.57 acres. For the residential portion of the project, there are going to be two phases that the applicant has proposed to construct this facility. Both phases will include 9 buildings with a total of 8 units per building, 2 stories per building, each having approximately 4,000 square feet per story. And there will be approximately 1,000 square feet per unit, and those units will range from 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 2-bedroom, 2 baths, and 1-bedroom, 1 bath. Each phase will have 72 units, totaling 144. Okay, continuing the analysis, the applicant has proposed to phase the residential portion of the development and construct the commercial portion at a later date. With that, all commercial improvements will be deferred until a tenant has been identified and construction commences. With this and the improvements that are tied to the commercial development, the staff is still requiring a fire apparatus road shall be provided during all phases of development. The applicant, like was previously presented, the applicant is proposing an open space dedication. The city is not in favor of the applicant's proposed 0.95 private open space dedication, as Peter Ringo Park and the dog park are in close proximity to the proposed development and would be duplicative in nature. Essentially, the facilities that would already, facilities that would then need to be maintained by the city. The applicant has the option to collaborate with the Selma Unified School District for land dedication to the neighboring elementary school, Eric White Elementary School, which could possibly reduce impact fees or provide credit towards paying for impact fees. Further on project improvements, there is a connection to the existing 10-inch sewer main within Nebraska that is for the residential phase. Excuse me. The connection and installation of a new 10-inch sewer main that is for the commercial phase, and then an 18-inch sewer line replacement between Sheridan Street and McCall Avenue, and a capacity increase at the Clarkson lift station, and that development is already underway. The applicant will be entitled to reimbursement through fee credits for any improvements that exceed their fair share costs and usage, such as the Sheridan line improvement. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission, next slide, please. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve Plan 2021-12, subject to conditions of approval, mitigated negative declaration, and mitigation monitoring reporting program and resolution. Staff is open for questions.
I just have a quick question, please, about the park space. You're adding 144 units and another 150 pretty much approximately were added by GJ Gardner Homes down the street. So that's approximately 300 new families moving in that area. Don't you feel that it would be necessary to add a park for all those children, possibly children living in that area?
Commissioner Corey makes a good point. I think there's a couple of things at play here. As we've stated, there is a park directly adjacent to the proposed development. In addition, the municipal code requires private open space as part of the internal development. This would be an additional dedication apart from what they're already required to provide for open space for the development itself. So the development itself is already required to provide open space to the tenants and residents inside the proposed development. That being said, the city is currently working, you referred to a subdivision down at Saginaw and Highland, Canales Estates, phases 1 through 3. The city is currently working on a 10-acre park at the corner of Thompson and Saginaw. So we are proposing park facilities. In this instance,
Okay.
the close proximity of all these park facilities would be duplicative. And that's why staff encouraged the applicant to reach out to the school district to see if there was some other credit available apart from park credit that they could obtain to possibly lower their cost burden as part of the project. Because duplicative, as nice as it would be to have as many parks as we want, we still have to maintain them and be responsible with taxpayer dollars, right? So having another park facility directly adjacent to a park facility from a city standpoint, when we're already proposing a 10-acre park down the street and there's 2 parks within a half mile of this facility, doesn't, from staff's point of view, doesn't make sense.
Thanks for clarifying.
And if I may, just to add to Jerome's point, in the staff report, in the conditions of approval, that threshold is 300 square feet for landscape and common open space. So 300 square feet per unit. So there would be 43,200 square feet of open space that is required by the applicant to provide.
This is a public hearing. During the public hearing, I will first ask for staff's comments and reports on the item being discussed. After staff's presentation, I will then open the hearing for public testimony. I will then close the public hearing, at which time no member of the public shall address the commission unless specifically asked by a member of the commission through the chair. The planning commission will then discuss the matter among themselves and take action on the item being considered. At this time, I will open the public hearing portion of the meeting. If anybody has anything to say in favor or against the proposal, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, please. Push.
Hello? Oh, yes. My name is Pardeep Singh Litter. I'm here from Selma, California. My address is 2004 South Highland Avenue. And the concern is, you guys were speaking about being duplicative, and then they have a second phase which is commercial. I feel Selma as a whole city, a lot of these local businesses are already like struggling, they can't sustain to stay open, there's a lot of closed shop, there's empty spaces. I would deem that kind of unnecessary at this time. The residential part, I would say, is a good benefit to the city. As far as commercialize more, there's already so much going on here, but not as much growth in the city itself. And another concern is the water as well. So we've been on that corner for 20+ years right now, and then we were waiting for the city to bring us the water sewer connection, which we have not gotten yet. So I'm still having to do my septic and sewer, myself, and then I have to get that pumped out regularly just due to this amount of water volume, trash volume, and all that good stuff. And so what can we do about that portion on my end as well? And then as far as me, I object against the commercializing portion of that.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Harvey Singh. I'm at 7425 East Danuba Avenue in Selma on the west side of the freeway. I came here to hear what was to be said, and I was hoping, I don't know, I know the family that owns that, and they're good people, and I'm in concert with them as a family, but I was surprised. I thought that was going to be slotted for individual homes. You have, I think with the apartment complex, we're gonna have too much density, too many people, too many vehicles, too much of everything right there where the church is. Well, not the church, but we call it the temple. It's comparable to being a church in English language. And my concern is the amount of traffic that we can be dealing with one church there already. And with the apartment complex, I would have thought, just like Mr. Gill's project down the road, on the other side of Nebraska, be all single family homes, because they're all single family homes starting from Anderson P. Soup here and what have you not. And also with the commercial, I do agree with my neighbor Linder. I think there's ample commercial in town, there's ample areas for commercial in town. I'm not sure it's that necessary to have more commercial next door to the gas stations and what has been already commercialized. And it just dilutes the space, it dilutes the rest of the businesses in that area. Then you're gonna have the same issues propping up their head on the west side of Saginaw, on the west side of Highland. Now you're on the east side. Eventually, they're gonna say, okay, you allowed apartments on this side. We want apartments on that side. It's gonna be nothing but, I think, a traffic and nightmare. And then I'm not sure of all the people that, they may have a very high-end apartment complex and they have a very good clientele that might live there. And I don't know anything, and I'm not gonna discuss that. But at the end of the day, there's gonna be obviously more people than individual homes, more potential for issues, more potential for crime, more potential for everything, obviously more potential for income. Don't get me wrong, I realize that implication for the family involved. But at the end of the day, also more headaches and more traffic, more issues, okay? So I put that forward in good faith, no bad malice towards anyone.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Pearl Portillo and I reside at 2762 Fifth Street. And I am here concerned, as he was mentioning, we had heard that that land was gonna be for individual family homes, not apartments. So when I learned about this a few months ago, which I got that information months back about apartments, I was a little discouraged, that it was not gonna be homes, but apartments. Not that there is really anything wrong with apartment besides the high traffic and families moving in and out. But what really concerned me the most is that I live on Fig, and according to the slide that I had received through a text a few months back, the entryway is gonna be on my street. And that's a big concern to me. Can you imagine traffic day in, day out, at all times of the 24 hours round? Coming, it's bad enough we have people driving like crazy, like that's the freeway, and now you're gonna have this entryway to these apartments on our street. That to me is not wise. I understand that having it on Highland is not wise either, because it's bad enough coming out a Rose to get on the 43 in the morning. So yeah, I really don't feel like apartments per se are the greatest of idea in that particular area. I understand we have housing needs by all means, but having apartments and then 2-story just doubles the population. And it's about everybody's safety in our neighborhood. That being said, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
My name's Bertha Zapata. I live on 2813 Nebraska Avenue. I've lived there since 1973. And so all throughout these years, there's literally like 4 houses on Nebraska where I live. And so they're like elderly people. And so I think for me, those apartments, we got enough problems as it is with the Nebraska apartments. And then building, because I would live right across the street, apartments that they plan to make, it would be more of a problem, very problematic because of, like I said, we already have enough problems with the Nebraska apartments, with the people. And so I think this would bring more problems for us. It just gets too cluttered as it is right now. I can see there's a lot of traffic early in the morning, like at 11 o'clock. You got it backed up all the way from what is it, Highland, all the way to back to Mitchell. All the cars are just literally back to back. And adding more, the construction of those apartments would be more problems. And so I don't know, I don't agree with that. Like they said, I think a couple, like 2 years ago, I think we came here and they had talked about single building single homes, and it was nothing that had to do with apartments. And now it's, to me, it's a big problem for us there, that we've lived there so many years and we've lived there peacefully. For the apartments that, you know, that they had, but well, after a while, they straightened it up out there. Thank you.
Hola, mi nombre es María y mi dirección es 2800 Fig Street. Y también es mi preocupación eso de los departamentos, que va a ser mucho, pues yo siento que mucho problema porque la escuela está cerca. Ven hace el año pasado el problema que hubo con el policía que lamentablemente falleció. Pues el muchacho corrió para allá, en la esquina de donde terminan las casas, de la Secuoya. Entonces, ¿quién nos dice que alguien que venga a vivir esos departamentos, pues no es alguien con esos tipos de problemas? Y pues, nomás de brincarse a la escuela con los niños. Ahí en la mera esquina están las dos preschool, una preschool y un daycare también con niños chiquitos. Y siempre están las puertas abiertas, porque unos tienen el horario de 8 de la mañana a 11 de la mañana y por eso pues tienen que tener las puertas abiertas. Y pues ya eso sería, no sé, yo pienso que un poco peligroso los departamentos ahí. Es diferente casas porque pues ya es alguien que dice se va a venir a quedar ahí y ya se empiezan a conocer los vecinos y, o sea, ya no se meten en problemas con ahí cerquitas. Siempre vienen de otros lados a hacer los problemas. Preocupación también, mucho tráfico que se hace. A la hora de levantar los niños, la fila está larguísima. Yo he visto que rebasan, se van a rebasar a los carros que están así en línea y se van bien recio para alcanzar a pasar porque el otro viene. ¿Pero por qué? Porque hay unos que no van a la escuela a levantar niños, simplemente van pasando por ahí, tienen que pasar por ahí y pues tienen que esperarse hasta que no, pues ahora sí hasta que no les toca la fila y no van para la escuela, van para acá. Por eso es que rebasan. No problema eso. Gracias.
Lupe, did you want to interpret what she said?
Sure.
Just a summary. of
Yeah,
what she said.
I was trying to take notes as fast as I can. Just for those who were, for Maria that, and I missed her address, I apologize, but she had some of the similar concerns that were stated previously. Hers were problems, with the apartments. She also talked about the traffic congestion that happens in the mornings. She also brought up an incident that happened with the officer a year ago. And we're just, concerned with the possibility of maybe the influx of, different people that can move into that apartments and, you know, similar events could happen. She also mentioned that the day school, preschool daycare that's nearby always keep their doors open and, you know, just more potential for problems and things like that. Again, talking on the traffic congestion for some reason.
Thank you.
All right, my name's Jay and I'm the applicant. This project has been, I think, about 3 years in the making, maybe a little bit longer, with different things that we were trying to figure out how to do to make sure that we did it right. We looked at it from 3 different angles. Obviously, from our developer standpoint, we want to make sure that what we were going to do was going to be good as far as the business was concerned. We're going to invest a lot of money, so we want to make sure that was good. We obviously wanted to take into account our neighbors to the north, to make sure that we accounted for them and make sure that we didn't impact that quality of life. And then the last thing was, as a neighbor, as a whole, a participant within the city, making sure that what we were going to provide was something of value to the city as a whole. Excuse me. So that was really where we drove this from. The commercial development was something that we saw as a future, that may be something that is needed down the road. And hence, that's why we're not doing anything on it right now. As the city grows and develops, that may be something that comes about. If not, there's something else we can do with that. A couple of things I did want to clarify. As a parent, one of the first things that I thought about was the people to the north on Fig. While there is an exit out there, that's for emergency vehicles only. Everything goes off to Nebraska. So people would come in off of Nebraska, exit through Nebraska. The gate to the north is only for the fire department or paramedics or police that needs to come access through there. So I did not want to, or we did not want to impede upon that. So kids playing out there, they should be able to play. There shouldn't be any traffic bombing through there. And I think to the people who would be living in the apartments, it'd be a lot easier just to go through Nebraska anyway to get onto 43, go south, or go north to jump onto 99. Other than that, we want to develop these in a way that I would be more than happy to live at myself. That was always my goal from the very beginning. So we're going to set a standard that is something that we can build upon, the city of Selma can build upon going forward. So like I said, I'm looking at this from very different angles, and that's why I kind of took a little bit of time to develop it and come to a design, a layout that was going to be good for everyone involved. So and like I said, with we got Shant and Stephanie on the call along with Alan Williams, who's doing the civil engineering part. So if they have any you have any questions, they'll be more than happy to address those. Thank you.
I just have a quick question for you,
Yeah.
please. Is there a specific percentage designated as low-income housing in your apartment?
Good question. We thought about doing that, but we kind of refrained from doing that for the time being.
What's the average rent that you foresee?
We're looking anywhere from about $1,600 to $1,700.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Public hearing is still open if anyone wants to approach. No one else? Is anybody online?
Yeah, as for the callers, I do see Stephanie with her hand raised, so I'll start with Stephanie for now. Stephanie?
Thank you. I just wanted to add one bit of clarification to, I think, the commissioner who had asked about open space for the project. While I think the number gave for required open space is correct, it was like 43,000 of common open space within the property. We're also providing each unit has one balcony ranging from about 100 to 200 square feet each. So each resident will also have private open space. And then we've actually gone above and beyond on the open space required on the site for the common areas. So we're providing like 126,000 square feet of common open space. So just to let you know, we are providing space for those families with children to play in a safe environment that's not going to overburden necessarily any of the neighboring parks.
Anyone else? You can only speak one time. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the commission? No one else online?
For the callers online, please use *9 to raise your virtual hand and *6 to unmute yourself. Chair Salas, we do have Sean would like to speak. Sean, go ahead.
Thank you once again, commissioners. And I think as Jay, so I was listening attentively. I understand all of the concerns. These are all normal concerns that we all have as residents of our various neighborhoods and communities. So these are not foreign issues that come up. What I can say as an architect with nearly 20 years experience in professional practice, and as Jay alluded to, we've spent a lot of time on developing the character of this project so that it actually mimics a single family residential community neighborhood concept as best as possible given the constraints. And actually I think one of the key things is what Jay mentioned is that the rental rate that the developer team is targeting is reflective of the fact that we've spent probably more time and energy into crafting an architecture that is going to have a sense of homeliness for our residents. And
And it didn't have to be that way. It can be done a lot worse. And that's what I wanted to speak to is, in my experience, I not only witness in my own neighborhood, and Stephanie, myself, and Jay have spent time driving around looking at other projects in the area. There's certainly a different standard of development that can be applied, and somebody else can apply a different standard to this property. But I doubt very much that it would match the level of quality that Jay and our team have strived, to maintain in this project. So a simple fact I can point to, the site from a density standpoint can certainly handle more buildings. But the setbacks, the distances of the buildings apart from one another, the distances in relation to Highland, to the school to the east, they've all been laid out and designed with respect to every tenant here, not only having a sense of privacy, but speaking to the concerns that have been expressed by the community there, the folks in the community not having this feeling of that there's a 4-story, highly dense development looking over their backyard. It's very much the opposite of that. In fact, I would say that these buildings have a very single-family residential character to them. So I just wanted to emphasize and reinstate that that was a goal of the project, and I'm proud to say that that goal has stayed all the way through, and it hasn't been compromised when it could have been in the face of higher profits, higher density, and cheaper materials and cheaper design. And so that integrity has been maintained, and I do believe that this project will have a very residential quality and nature to it once built.
Thank you. Anybody else?
For the callers on the line, please use star 9 to raise your virtual hand and star 6 to mute yourself. There's Salas. I don't see anyone else with their hand raised.
No one else here in the audience?
Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen. I live in 2756 Fig Street in front of this project. My concern is the same on Maria and the same apparel. The families, the traffic, the children in the school, and we are here. There are a lot of families. There are families who wants to came to this meeting today, but unfortunately they don't cannot. But we, like families, mother family, I am totally disagree with this project. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
No further comment? Closing the public hearing portion of the meeting, and we'll bring it back to the commission for questions or discussion.
I have a few things to add. For a couple of the comments, okay, let me just start at the beginning and kind of roll through what was discussed. The applicant is proposing to change the land use designation, right, which is within their right as a property owner, and there's a due process, which is why we're here. So yes, I think the community is correct in the fact that it was planned for single family. The applicant has taken a look at the property and found that a different use is more beneficial, maybe for development purposes, but also in providing various other uses for the city in the form of multifamily housing as well as commercial space, which is firmly within their right, which is why we analyze it the way that we do. As far as some of the other concerns, I think the applicant stated that the north side is just an emergency exit only, so there won't be any traffic on Fig Street generated by the project unless it's emergency vehicles. What you will see on the north side of the street is the road will be built out to the full standard. I think it's a local 60-foot street standard that is only half built out right now at adjacent to this property. And then adjacent to the east, you see those parking spaces in front of the school. that would have to be reconfigured so that they don't back out into a travel way, because technically they're out in the street right now. So you will see a reconfiguration that may provide a safer configuration for motorists in that area, because you would have more area to navigate. Part of the discussion, that staff has had with the applicant with regard to that 1 acre parcel up in the north with the school district is, would they want parking? Would they want to get people off the street to facilitate safer motorist movements out there? It's not up to us, but that's a negotiation for them with the school district. Having better safety for students coming to school, making sure they're off the street so students aren't walking into the street, as well as parking or backing out, I think is, from our standpoint, a beneficial configuration that this project could bring. Additionally, this project would extend sewer and water facilities to the frontage of the property. So the property on the corner that has said that there's no services for them, they would have services extended to their property line. So now they could connect to sewer and water. The connection, I was just looking it up, is at Mitchell. So it has to run along the frontage of the park and to get to this site. So the applicant is bringing those services as part of this development. In addition, the applicant is also upgrading other sewer facilities in town that other projects are also conditioned that they can't open until those improvements are made. And so this project is providing various upgrades to the infrastructure system that we aim to have projects complete and receive credit on their impact fees or other reimbursements for the work that they're doing, not just for their project, but for other projects, right? And that's why we've conditioned it in a certain way. The existing 10-inch sewer line along the frontage has capacity that they don't have to upgrade, but the master plan calls for a second pipe to be installed to accommodate wastewater flows from the west side of Highland for future projects. So this project is going to put that in as part of the phase 2 commercial development, and they would receive credit for that, right? In addition, the upgrade to the Sheridan line is the same line that a project that came to Planning Commission last month is also conditioned to upgrade. If Mr. Singh upgrades that sewer line, the impact fees from the other projects go to help reimburse Mr. Singh in the event that he has more credit than we can give him on just his project, right? So the impact fee program, as we've stated, is there for fair share improvements, but also to reimburse people that provide much more than what they have to provide to just serve their project, right? And in this instance, Mr. Singh has been made aware of these improvements and gone the extra mile to go and work with SKF and work with the city to understand, A, what does that entail? B, what is it going to cost me? C, how do I get made whole as part of that? And the way that we do that is through impact fees and credits and that type of program, right? As far as traffic along the frontage of this project, he'll have to improve Nebraska along his frontage to be, I believe it's an arterial roadway that is minimum, I believe, 80-foot wide. So he would have another travel lane to help alleviate some of the traffic concerns on at least the north side of Nebraska going to Highland. That would also necessitate maybe the city reconfiguring parking in front of the park, because you have those angled parking stalls that would facilitate another travel lane and perhaps bike lane along Nebraska, right? So the project is more than mitigating, I think, some of its impacts and also addressing concerns with infrastructure in a variety of ways through sewer, circulation, water. In addition, they're going to be paying into the park impact fee program, as well as providing private open space, as we've discussed in the project, for as common open space, as well as individual open space per unit. The project is required to put various block walls around the project so that it's screened properly. There's appropriate setbacks for 2-story buildings from adjacent existing residential development to help further buffer 2-story buildings so that you don't feel like those buildings are right on top of you. So in our mind, this project is mitigating all of its impacts to an extent that it's required to under our existing provisions, our existing policies, as well as the California Environmental Quality Act and the existing zoning ordinance. Lastly, the state of California also requires us to provide variety of housing, right? And providing multifamily housing helps the city comply with our RENA numbers as well as other metrics for providing housing that the state of California is constantly monitoring, changing, and forcing cities to comply with. So from staff standpoint, along with mitigating impacts, there is a benefit of this project in the fact that it helps us meet some of the state mandated housing goals as well. So if there's any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Hopefully, I think I covered most of what's, concerns and other questions were brought up by the public as well.
I have a quick question about the school. Is this in Eric White or Terry?
Eric White.
Is Eric White able to accommodate an additional 144 families at this point?
The school district was asked to comment. We did not get any feedback from them as to whether or not they could or could not. If that were the case, they could either look at restructuring the districts accordingly. I believe they also have facilities that they can bring on site to accommodate additional students. But at the end of the day, these types of developments aren't large per unit generators, but I understand the concern of mission with regard to that aspect.
And what happened to the open space if the school says we don't want it?
It would become part of the project in some facet. The way the project is structured, if he incorporates that open space back into the project, he can't exceed what's being discussed and what's been analyzed under the environmental documentation. So he would still be limited to 144 units. It just may have more open space or other amenities for the residents.
And I understand when a rent is a little bit higher to attract quality people to live there, sometimes what it does, it forces people to add on additional tenants to that unit without the approval of the landlord. Or so a 2-bedroom apartment technically should accommodate 4 people. All of a sudden you have 8 and there are just 2 families living in a 2-bedroom apartment just simply so they can split the rent because it's a little bit on the higher end. Is there anything the commission can do to avoid that? Because this is how apartments become run down. It's when originally the intention is for them to be nice at a higher interest rate, to have nicer families move into the neighborhood and keep it the feel of a single family home. But we often see that a problem, becoming an issue. So I don't know if there's anything.
I don't believe we can limit the number of people per unit. The state has strictly eliminated the ability of the local agency to dictate what's called a family and that what can live in a unit.
Said.
I mean, I think the point is well taken. I think that there's a couple of methods that the city can take. I mean, there's obviously various codes and ordinances for nuisance abatement and substandard housing that we have to comply with in terms of making sure that the unit is livable, has available utilities, amenities as dictated by the state. The other thing we rely upon is, community input. If this is becoming an issue, report it to the city so that we can take action, right?
Okay.
Code enforcement is there for a reason. We obviously aren't everywhere all at once. We can't be.
Right.
We rely on community input, complaints, information so that we can act accordingly. I think you've heard today from the applicant that he's committed to producing a high quality product.
Mhm.
But I think at the same time, we'd be remiss to say, we're not aware that things like this can happen, but there are procedures in place for the city to act accordingly.
Yeah, something to share with the adjacent homeowners that they do have, a course of
Recourse.
action if something like that was to happen. Is there a limited number of police calls after which it becomes like somebody has to take an action, or just like on CUPs, or is this just once it's approved, it's pretty much approved?
I mean, once the buildings are up and they're occupied, I don't think we're gonna take them back. I think from the standpoint of if there's a number of calls, I believe the PD starts charging for service after so many calls,
Okay. And that's a charge on the landlord?
property owner.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. According to this map, the commercial would be facing Nebraska. So it's going to be between Nebraska and the apartments.
The entrance to the apartments is to the east, and then the commercial would be nestled between
The
the
other commercial.
entrance to the west and then the adjacent property, yeah.
And you don't know, they don't know what type of commercial is going to go in there yet?
They haven't provided that. For the purposes of the environmental analysis, there are mitigation measures that limit somewhat what can go there. They need to be locally serving commercial. For the purposes of, and I don't want to put anybody to sleep, but I'm going to talk about the California Environmental Quality Act. The California Environmental Quality Act, for the purposes of traffic analysis, refers to vehicle miles traveled. As part of this project, the analysis limited the commercial of what's going to be constructed to what they term locally serving commercial, so that it proposes a use that does not necessitate people traveling long distances to go to this commercial location. So if the project were to propose something outside the definition of locally serving commercial, they would have to come back and reanalyze that for the commercial or for the vehicle miles traveled and circulation impacts associated with that, which also impact air quality and other items that the state is trying to reduce. So the commercial, as part of the project, actually should reduce traffic trips because the commercial uses that go there should help serve the multifamily that's going in, if that, to some extent.
144 apartments, 144 people at minimum, probably twice that if they're two-bedroom apartments.
I think the general estimate is about 2.4 people per.
So a lot of people. I had a granddaughter who was at the TK there at Eric White. Picking her up was not fun. There's a lot of traffic, and that was just picking up TK. That wasn't, and that was at a different time when the school would get out. So that's a lot of traffic. You're talking about adding a couple hundred more people in the mix, people trying to all leave at the same time or more or less when they're going to work or coming home at the end of the day. The people here in the audience, their big concern was the traffic, that the line of traffic on both Mitchell and on Nebraska backs up and you can't get through there. You can't get through there. And now you're adding 200 more people in there, at least, trying to get in and out. You said that they would build out part of Nebraska, but not all of Nebraska.
So they're required to expand on the north side of Nebraska for an additional travel lane east to west. The south side of Nebraska is other property owners, some of which I think are here this evening. If and when that area develops, they would be required to widen that portion of Nebraska. I don't think the city, if the city wanted to require full widening in Nebraska, you would require the applicant, and again, I'm not recommending this, it's not included in our proposal. If that were to happen, they would have to negotiate acquisition or right of way, and then we would end up reimbursing the applicant for the additional roadway work above and beyond what they're required to do. So you would have more credit due to the applicant for the purposes of just widening Nebraska. I think there's other issues. And that being said, I think putting students closer to schools is a good thing because they can walk, correct? And so you don't necessarily have a car from this going to the school. If they have students, they would likely walk. But point taken, eventually, I think in some of these intersections, you have other projects, southeast corner of Nebraska and Mitchell, that is supposed to expand that part of the intersection. And then when we get the third corner of that intersection, that should be likely either a traffic light or some other mitigation in terms of circulation. I'm not necessarily advocating for a traffic circle, but it's more likely going to be a signal there.
But this isn't going to change the size of Mitchell at all.
I don't think you can change this. I mean, Mitchell's built out to the north. I think to the south, you could build it out because there's empty lots to the south.
But that's what I'm saying. So the traffic in front of the school is going to be the traffic in front of the school. That's not going to change because that roadway will not change at all.
Right.
There's going to be, this apartment complex is going to butt up to the park and to the school. There'll be a brick wall between the school and the apartment complex and the park and the apartment complex. I have concerns with the amount of people. Homeowners are different from apartment owners. I managed apartments for 10 years. They do not have the same respect for property as someone who owns their home. I'm not to say that apartment dwellers don't care, but they just are not, they don't have that vested interest as a homeowner would. And people come and go. People come and go. So you can't really predict the tenants that you're going to have there. You're going to have some great ones and you're probably going to have some bad ones. Just that many people in that close proximity to the school and to the park all the time. It's not like they're going to go anywhere. That's where they're going to be living. And I have a concern with the amount of congestion that's going to be in that area. And then putting a piece of commercial property right in front of it, abutting to Nebraska Avenue, I just feel like that's too much.
I have a question. I know the school, I'm on the school bond oversight committee, and I know and Eric White, when they were redoing the drop off for students so that before they had a lineup on Mitchell and it was chaos. So now they go more into the ground like a drop off. And wasn't that implemented this year or so? And I don't know, is that?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Franco, for reminding me of that. The city provided comments as part of that drop off through the engineering department. So we're aware of it. And I believe they were working on it late last year.
Yeah, I know it was scheduled. I don't know if it's there or not. I'll be honest. I don't know, but I know.
We can verify whether it was completed or not.
And I do know that it's for lack of a better word, it could be scary, especially you live in an area that hasn't been developed, that you want to say, oh, it's easy to say no changes. I remember when years ago when they were working on the Amberwood section drawing, it was just a drawing, and everybody wants Amberwood, and then they had one little street coming to exist in the neighborhood, and all of a sudden it was the sky is falling because that street is going to have drag racing coming through, but you know, when I was young, I grew up basically in apartments. I don't think I was a bad person, and I don't think I stood up all night. I actually was asleep at night. So, yes, there is more people, and yes, there is more congestion, but we shouldn't be afraid of that. We need the housing tremendously. My question more is to the Mr. Singh, the project is, what type of property management firm is going to be managing the apartment? Is that going to be something internal, or are you contracting out with somebody? External? Okay.
Yeah. Right Equities, that was a company. Yeah, it was Right Equities is who we were working with to manage these apartments. So this wouldn't be a hands-on operation for us per se. We would be overseeing it, but it's got to be someone who's well-versed and knows what to do and making sure that these issues that we see, we mitigate as much as we possibly can.
Right. Thank you.
I have a question for staff. So the current general plan is saying MLD, like medium low density, and the proposed is high density. So if they are like considering the existing one, and how much is the difference between the both, like existing and the proposed one for the housing?
Medium low density has a range of 3.0 to 5.5 units per acre. High density is 13 to 19 units per acre. Doing the math, they are on the lower end of that high density. But yes, the range just goes from 13 to 19 per acre.
A little less than 3 times, right? Because they're about 10 acres, it's 144, so it's about 14 units an acre, which is on the lower end of high density, which is 13. If you maxed out medium low density, it would be 5, so 5.5, excuse me. So it's a little less than 3 times as much.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of this, is to change it to high density.
And for what it's worth, the ITE manual, the Institute of Traffic Engineers, estimates on a per unit basis, apartments produce fewer per unit trips than single family homes. So you have, almost 9 trips per single family home, almost 10 trips per day per single family home, whereas multifamily is closer to like 6. So you have more units, but you have less traffic. So it's not necessarily apples to apples in terms of traffic generation. It's going to be lower from an apartment standpoint. In addition, you probably have more people that will walk to certain places or try to get to commercial areas by walking rather than driving, shared vehicles and things like that. So you have typically less traffic associated with these type of projects. So it's gonna be more, but maybe not as more as is anticipated if you have the same number of single family homes.
Oh my gosh.
One another question on the fixed rate. I just want to clear. We are adding some more parking space for, or just the parking is going to be all inside.
For the project, they have to provide their own parking for the apartments. So they'll have to provide 2 spaces approximately per unit. I think we have the specific count as part of it, but they're required to provide 1.5 space for a 1-bedroom and then 2 spaces for a 2-bedroom. And then it's basically one of the 2 needs to be covered parking. So you're looking at approximately 288 parking stalls inside the project to serve the project, so that you wouldn't have any on-street parking generated as part of this project.
And we are not touching fixed rate dimensions.
Well, we're going to be widening Fig Street, which has always been proposed to be widened to a 60-foot local street standard,
Okay.
which is not fully developed at this time as part of the site development. So on the north end, they'll be developing Fig Street to the appropriate width, so there'll actually be more room for people, and you might actually have ability in front of some of those houses to park in front of their property, and
Okay.
people will still be able to get by them, right? Because it's considerably more narrow as you drive further west, right? Because it's not built out to the local road standard. So you'll have improvements there, but as we stated, you're not going to have anybody exiting the project from there. So if anything, that additional improvement along the north end is going to help the neighborhood more than the project.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm right.
Make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Chair
and
Salas,
I-
there was a hand raised from
Oh.
Stephanie. If you,
Well,
Oh, Stephanie, did you have something to say?
I think you covered it. Sorry, I was just gonna add that we have over the minimum parking requirements. So we have like 305 stalls proposed and 270 something are required. So we're more than covering the amount of residents and guests for the apartment complex on site without adding any load to Fig Street.
Thank you.
I made a motion.
A motion to,
Approve.
we have a motion to approve.
If I could add for Commissioner Franco's motion, we just want to make sure it's clear, the recommendation of staff is, as proposed, we're not including the 0.95 acre park as part of our recommendation. So the resolution and the recommendation of staff is that you approve the project with removing the 0.95 acre park and allow them to either incorporate it into the project or find another suitor like the school district, but the city is not recommending, or staff is not recommending dedication of a 0.95 acre park to the city for maintenance. So it's just as recommended by staff in the resolution.
I'll make a motion approved as per the recommendation of city staff.
I do second.
Okay, first, motion made by Commissioner Franco, second by Vice Chair Singh. Commissioner Corey?
Honestly, I'm going to abstain because I'm torn between the need for housing and putting myself in the shoes of a homeowner who purchased there with the understanding that those were going to be single-family homes and now they're apartments. So I'm just going to abstain from voting. I apologize.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandu?
Yes.
And Chair Salas?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Would you make a comment for me?
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
That we're just approving staff recommendations, that it's really up to the city council to final verdict, the committee.
The resolution is to recommend to city council that they approve this project or the changes that are being requested. So we are in agreement with staff to recommend this change to council. It will ultimately be up to the city council to approve the project.
Thank you.
Is there any further information that we need?
We can't do it anyway. It's not on the agenda. Right?
Okay,
I guess we're adjourning.
no further. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. 7:10 p.m.